we want to build a 100-year company. We didn't want to get swallowed and become the mini grid department in a big European energy firm. And we felt that if we did go the kind of equity route early, we would be starting to sacrifice our goals and our objectives for the business. We couldn't start by saying it's commercially fundable because they don't have the risk appetite to help prove business models. Once you've proven a business model, then you can go to the guys and say, well, look at how good we are at delivering a system that works. Once we've established a track record and some reliable data, then that's all completely possible. But it's always those first steps which are really hard, and that's where the grant funding is really, really helpful to try and get businesses over the line to start.
Well, before I joined the Africa Prize, we had only one prototype of our water filter, but during the training we were really challenged. I realized that without showing something tangible, I cannot make any progress. So I decided to apply what I was learning during the training. So I struggled, but I didn't have money. How can I put something in the market?
Unfortunately, we couldn't get funded. So that was also a challenge because games in Africa, they just didn't understand what we were doing, right? So it was like a group of people, you have your friends. There was this guy who knew about getting funds, it was a whole setup actually. So after MEST, we decided, hey, why don't the three of us get this industry kick-started? And that was how Letty Games was born.
We really want to make this thing scalable. And for us, that meant making it commercial. We had to make this thing deliver enough return that we could raise private capital to deploy this thing properly. And we took the view that trying to find funding at that point was going to be a fruitless exercise. We had a good idea, but we didn't have enough to show for it. At that moment, we couldn't even tell you how much we needed. We didn't know how much one of these things would cost. So we were like, well, if we don't know, we can't go and ask. So we had to go much further down the road, but in order to prove it, we would go and look for grant funding.
So how did I get started? I started with my money, my own money, the salary that I'm getting from the university. I built a water station. But with that, I was able to apply for the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation, and evidence that I took my technology from the lab now to the pilot test. I think they liked that, so they shortlisted me to be among 12. And during the competition now, during the training, that is when I get the idea of getting a loan, interest-free loan from the university. It was a surprise to me because if I was not in this training, they could not give me that money. $7,000 is too much money. They could not give.
Most of my colleague video game companies building games in Nigeria, Cameroon, Kenya, and all. There are a few game companies around. They are all fundraising, or you do consulting to get money to fund your game, which Letty does. Letty does consulting for clients, and then we get money for that to fund our games. I don't say is that profitable, but that is the life, that's the oxygen of the company now. That's where we've built enough clients. So we deliver services to them and they pay us for those services. And we reinvest what we get into building our internal vision.
For me, grant funding comes in a few different forms. It typically, your return to the fund is in an impact rather than in a repayment and a return, although there can be some combination of that. We were building a business that had an impact, both a social impact, an environmental impact, socio-economic impacts, where there's a lot of grant money looking for good projects in that space. So we were always quite aware that, this project had grant funding potential. Especially to prove it. So we went and applied in a whole nother round of proof of scale funders. And by then our story was solid. We could describe our product really well. We could describe the parameters of how it worked. We had market survey data from our actual customers saying how much they're spending. So our story was a lot stronger then. And yeah, so now we're busy waiting to hear back from them. Fingers crossed.
But because they see the potential, that I'm under a certain kind of training, that I will use this money constructively for an intended business, they gave me that fund. Then that allowed me to put some products in the market, real products in the market. And now I have 10 water stations as I'm graduating this competition.
I tell you, it's not easy. So you should have passion more than money. I always tell people, be richer in passion than in money, because money will run out. That one, trust me. It's your passion that keeps you going for you to grab the next money that will come in, right? So be richer in passion than in money.